Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. That's Joe Smith. This is the review of Manchester United's 1-1 draw with Burnley. Almost like some of us predicted, Joseph, in the preview.
Yeah.
Get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you think. I mean, the thumbnail says time's up. I don't think it's quite up for him because we've still got the small matter of the FA Cup final, and I do expect him to be United manager for that one. But in terms of next season, he's not doing himself any favours in the job prospects, is the old Eric Ten Hag?
I think the thing that's keeping him in the job is the lack of alternatives.
Yep.
And we've said this a few times, but I know there are some managers, Thomas Tuchel's about, Hansi Flick is about, there's other people who you can maybe look at, Potter, or people talk about Southgate. I don't think that happens, Zidane maybe, but I just think that I've never seen this before. It's a bizarre combination of, I don't think, they don't play like they've given up. Like they look like they're trying quite hard.
I'll give you that.
Which is weird.
You know when you talk about a manager losing the dressing room,
it doesn't
I don't
look
feel
like
like he has. And maybe that is something Ineos will look at.
Yeah.
Because under Moyes, you could see that. Under Jose, Jose kind of sabotaged himself.
Yeah.
Rangnick never had the dressing room, to be fair.
I think even under Ollie, you could see it.
Yeah.
You
had.
It doesn't look like they've given up. They look like they're trying. We're just terrible.
Is
weird. I've never
not
seen that before.
Not worse, but it's just as bad. But in that way, for his prospects, worse, because you might look at it and go, he's a manager who's out of his depth. If he's got players that are trying and he can beat Burnley or Brentford or hold on to a lead when we're 3-2 up against Chelsea with a minute to go, or beat Coventry in normal time when we're 3-0 up.
Yeah.
Like, that is concerning. I've stuck up for Eric Ten Hag almost every single video I've been on when we've spoken about him, genuinely. And I would love to see him in the dugout next season. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think that hard-faced businessmen who've become the richest men in the country, or at least Sir Jim Ratcliffe has, and have finally got part ownership of your boyhood club where you've spent 1.25 billion to get it, and you're watching this week in, week out. You've brought in the likes of Omar Barada because he's best in class, Jason Wilcox because he's the best in class. You're trying to get Dan Ashworth and you go into court to get him because he's the best in class. Are going to stick with the manager who's delivering this football and these results. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm proven wrong and he smashes it, he wins the FA Cup and he becomes the next Sir Alex Ferguson. I just genuinely don't see it happening. I don't. And I think whilst injuries are a factor, whilst you can argue one or two decisions were a bit ropey, maybe, probably should have had a penalty or whatever, the fact of the matter is, a Burnley team who more than likely will be in the Championship next season, come to Old Trafford, and for large parts of that game, outplayed us. That is a concern. I don't think they were far the better team, but it was a pretty even match between a team that are, the 19th, and a team that is Manchester United. I mean, that for me isn't good enough. And I think, I don't want to be too negative on the manager. My default setting with every manager we've ever had is to defend them, stick up for them, to back them, get behind them. But in all honesty, I don't think this is going to have a happy ending under Eric Ten Hag. I just don't.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I agree with a lot of what you've said.
Yeah.
I don't know, weirdly, I feel like more so than earlier in the season, there are times in games where I see actual attacking patterns and I see, ideas on the pitch. I see the players having structure and the bit like overlapping fullbacks, balls being played out to the wingers, cutbacks to the 6 and sort of 12-yard line or the penalty spot. I'm seeing sort of things that I don't feel like I saw last season or earlier this season. And yet the results are worse than ever. Out of possession, we are shocking. That's a real issue. Unless we're sitting deep, we're terrible. Defensively, in transition, we're as bad as anyone in the league, maybe the worst team in the league. And yet on the ball, I'm seeing improvements. And, I think Garnacho had 7 or 8 shots today, probably should have scored a goal. I think their goal that they scored, when we actually look at it, it was Onana being brainless and mistiming his jump, which obviously, you can't just lose every game or draw and drop points every game and it's never the manager's fault. But these like Wan-Bissaka's given away a couple of penalties recently. Onana's given away a penalty today. Like, penalties being given away isn't really the manager. And yet, you can't get away from the fact that we've won 1 game in our last 6.
Against the team that are relegated, by the way.
Against the team that are now relegated. We are on for our equal worst ever finish in a Premier League season. It's just unacceptable, and I kind of feel a little bit sorry for Ten Hag on one hand, but on the other hand, I think, why aren't we better when we lose the ball? Why has it been all season where every team we play against is running 50 yards unchallenged through our midfield multiple times per game? Even if it's just we're going to have to adapt and change this and do this just short term, you can't allow that. So I understand it and I get it. I just think it's quite perplexing to watch because it's these mad kind of ups and downs within a game, looking really good on the ball and then looking terrible off it. We're about to finish the worst we've ever finished in the Premier League, or equal in it by the looks of things, and yet we're in the FA Cup final, beating Liverpool along the way. Like, it's bizarre. And I don't know, I feel like we need better footballing minds than me, and I hope we've got them at Man United, to sort of see the truth of what's going on here. Because it's too confusing for me. I can't remember a team that looks so bad at some points and really good at others and winning this and winning that, and the manager hasn't lost the dressing room and they still look like they're trying, but they're absolutely pathetic whenever any other team gets any confidence. We just roll over and let them score. It's weird, isn't it? It's like an unusual set of characteristics we've seen from this team. I don't know if I've ever seen it before.
Yeah, no, it is. You're right. And I just wonder whether he's got it in him to fix it.
I don't know.
That's the thing, because when you get a new manager, it's like you do get that reset, because you've got a new manager who he doesn't owe any of these players anything. Like he didn't bring any of them in. He doesn't. You know, they haven't. There's no attachment to any of them. Also, he can be as ruthless as he wants, and he can get away with it. He can upset people. He can get away with it, and he can have fresh ideas, and that can help give you that bump. And other than maybe, I think, Rangnick, we've always seen a reaction when we brought in a new manager. Ollie, as caretaker, we broke records when he was caretaker. Ten Hag, when he came in his first season, he won trophies. Jose, when he came in his first season, he won 2 trophies. Ten Hag won 8 trophies. Jose won 2 trophies.
Yeah.
Louis van Gaal, when he came in the first season, we got back into the Champions League. So you do tend to get a reaction when you get a new manager in at United, sort of post Fergie, other than Moyes, or sort of post Moyes, I should say. So maybe there is a sort of feeling or a thinking behind that Ineos might look and go, look, we need to get that rejuvenation that you're only going to get with a new manager. I don't know. I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There might have been a conversation where they've said, look, this season, it's not gone right. Well, you've had injuries. We will give you a chance. But if that is the case, I think they'd have come out and said something a little bit more emphatic than what they've said. I think there might have been a little bit more of a signal towards that, and we haven't really had that yet. And also, maybe they don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Barada and Dan Ashworth and Wilcox haven't got in a room together and had that conversation, because you're going to have it. Maybe they haven't sort of discussed it amongst themselves and gone, right, who's the manager we want? Is it Erik ten Hag? And if not, who then? Because don't forget as well, a lot of managers are getting hoovered up now. The kid that was never linked with United, to be fair, who's gone to Liverpool. Yeah. Nagelsmann signed a new deal to stay at the German Federation. Xabi Alonso, again, I don't think we're ever going to get him, but he's staying at Bayer Leverkusen. Almost
Bayern need to find a new coach as well.
Almost every week there's a manager who either commits his future or gets sort of snaps up somewhere else or whatever. So the longer you leave it, the sort of less people you've got to choose from. I don't know. It's difficult, because I'll do what I get behind Ten Hag, but I feel like it's becoming harder to defend him every week. That's the issue I've got. And I understand your point of who out there is the obvious choice, because I can't think of one where I go, oh, he'd definitely come in at United and sort this out.
Yeah.
But I do begin to wonder whether there isn't just the need for someone to come in with fresh ideas, fresh tactics, and just maybe a bit of ruthlessness. I don't know. I've always been the sort of Ten Hag in camp, for want of a better expression, but I just find myself sort of questioning that almost every week. Every week. Since the Liverpool FA Cup game, it has been a hard slog. And before that, it weren't great, and I was hoping that'd get us going again. And since then, we've drawn with Brentford after what was an abject 93 minutes, by the way, before we got that first goal. It was absolutely terrible performance. There's no excuses.
It was horrendous.
Lost to Chelsea, after we were leading going into the 96th minute. Drawn with commentary in normal time and after extra time, and won on penalties after we were leading 3-0. beat Sheffield United, fair enough, but then drawn with a Burnley team who more than likely will be playing Championship football next season. Not great. What are the comments saying?
Yeah, it's a real mixed bag, to be honest. It's
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, get your thoughts in. There's a lot of people, of course, criticising Ten Hag, getting he needs to go. We need someone else in. But then on the other hand, we've got Retro Sheller. It wasn't Ten Hag's fault at all today. We played well, just couldn't finish.
There's an argument there.
Danny Quinn says Ten Hag didn't tell Casemiro to head the ball back to Onana. Burnley didn't have many chances in the entire second half. Same cycle since Fergie left. We need a complete rehaul. Kim Hawkins says go and get Tuchel. 18 players and a manager should change, says Adam. I mean, I don't know where that would leave us. It's a very, very strange mixture, isn't it? And I think we're all like burned a little bit by almost this kind of two sides to what you've just said. On one hand, you kind of guaranteed a new manager boost, and maybe this squad needs that, and maybe a new manager boost in sort of cooperation with the new ownership could see a real kind of tidal wave of change at United. But on the other hand, you look at it and you go, well, you're going to get the boost, but then we're going to get the dip. And we never stick through the dip. We wait until the manager comes in and we do well because everyone's trying to impress the new manager. So the players are capable of playing well. And then when the manager actually settles in and everyone gets a bit bored and, it's not as exciting playing for this manager anymore, then this happens every 2 years, every 3 years we see the same thing. And you almost think maybe that's a sign that the players aren't quite right and that we need to give manager more time, not less time.
I would, if it was my choice. There's a difference between what I think will happen and what I want to happen. If it was my choice, I probably would give him a chance under this regime. I said it when I went on the overlap. I said I'd like to see him get a chance under anyone else. It was easier to say that because we just beat Liverpool and everything was rosy. Not rosy, but there was a lot more positivity. I probably would give him a chance if it was up to me. I don't think they will though. Yeah. I don't think he gets next season. Sorry, I don't. And I'm happy to be proven wrong because, like as I said, I would give him more time. But I just look at it and I think they're going to be seeing these results, seeing this football. Yes, there's injuries. We had, again, you're starting with a 32-year-old midfielder at centre back and a right back at left back. That isn't great. You've also got decisions that are going against you. For me, that's a penalty. We should have had a penalty. That would have won us the game. And I hear your point about, Garnacho, poor finishing. We should have really had the game wrapped up. I get all that. But for me, the results haven't been good enough. And also, when you're looking at it and you're going, if you're Ineos and you're going, this manager, okay, let's make excuses for him or let's defend him. He hasn't been given the signings that he wanted. He's had to make do with other signings, whatever. There are signings he's made that he wanted. Yeah. Like, from what we gather, wanted Mason Mount. It's not his fault he's been injured, but he wanted him. He spent money on him. He wanted, I think he wanted Amrabat as well. There was a lot of talk that Amrabat was a midfielder that he wanted. Again, it was a loan move, but he wanted to bring him in. Ericsson was a signing he wanted. Martinez was a signing he wanted. Onana was a signing he wanted. Anthony was a signing he wanted. Now, Malacia was a signing he wanted. Now, not all these players are bad players right now. I think a lot of them, think nearly all of them are good players. But whilst Højlund was the signing he wanted, whilst he's not been backed as well as he could have been, he has had a lot of signings he wanted. So it's not like he's been completely ignored in the transfer market. No. Do you know what I mean? He's, to a degree, been backed. And I thought last January was a missed opportunity when we were fighting on four fronts and we didn't go out and get a striker. I thought we should have done. I thought we should have spent money in that January transfer window, and bringing in Wout Weghorst for me was a joke. But you can't just say, he's not had anything in the transfer market. He has been back to a certain degree, just probably not as well as he could have been. But this is the issue. Is like, that being said, it's fucking Burnley at home.
It is.
Like,
it is Burnley at home, and I agree with that. But on the other hand, we're 6th. And Burnley are 19th, which on one hand means, you got to beat them. But on the other hand, it's not like we lose every time we play a lower team. We're in the European spot. Like, I look at the league table, and obviously a good manager should make your players play better, not just to their average. But other than Villa, with the amount of injuries we've had, I would expect us to be roughly where we are. Like, I would maybe a better push for top 4, challenging properly for that top 4 spot out, maybe another 6 points or whatever than we've had now. But I wouldn't expect us to be in that Liverpool, City, Arsenal title challenge. Tottenham are always fighting for top 4, and if they have a good season, you're going to be in that mix. We've not had our first choice back 4 almost at all this season. That's roughly where I would think we'd be.
I agree.
But I'm
the
not...
point is, can I just something here? I get everything you've just said, right? And I kind of agree with it. Certainly agree. It's the issue I've got, and maybe this is just me being a bit sort of, United at home and all that. But it's when you look at Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham, Crystal Palace, bottom half of the table, all won at Old Trafford this season.
Yeah, it's not.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Burnley 9th, got a draw at Old Trafford. Forest were down to 10 men and we beat them, but we were fucking hanging on at Old Trafford. That's the frustrating thing for me, is our home form in particular. Yeah. Our home form in particular this season has proper let us down. I can stomach losing at Stamford Bridge. The nature of the defeat was terrible, but I can stomach it and you think, all right, it can happen. I can stomach drawing at Anfield. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That's not that bad a result. Even the Arsenal loss at the Emirates, you look at the way it went down, it could have gone the other way. It's those losses at home that really gets me. And also today, like dropping points against the team on the back of when we've had a poor run at home, it's just really, really frustrating, and it's hard to be positive about that or hard to defend it. What are the comments saying?
We've got Pete Marshall says, come on, give him more time. None of this new manager bounce rubbish again and again. On the other hand, MDRN Samurai says, stop being politicians and say what you see. This football is crap. The players may suck, but the manager's nothing to change anything. Up the Paddock. Ross Murphy says, I just hope it isn't Southgate. I'd rather have Ole back. I just think Ten Hag's contract is up next summer, and I think Ineos will give him next season.
I hope you're right. I do. There you go. I'll see what I see. I'm hoping that's true, but I don't think it will be.
MD says, this isn't a dip. His tactics are shit. He could play this way with anyone. You'd still get exposed. The squad is good enough to be controlling Burnley. And Jesus Christ says, Klopp had 3 or 4 players a little off the boil last season, and the quadruple challengers finished outside the top 4. What can Ten Hag do with 60-plus injuries? I mean, there is a point there. MD says, sounds like justifying 6th. Embarrassing. Well, I'm not justifying 6th, am I? So, think again.
No one's justifying anything.
No, of course. Sam Z says, we have a cult of the manager problem. I don't even particularly care that it's this manager. I think he's a good manager, or has been in the past. But I just think, like, I just can't see a manager that's out there right now that in 2 years' time we're not going to be sat here saying the same thing. Having not won a league, having not challenged for the Champions League, and we're going to be going, well, we've seen Tuchel fail at Chelsea, we've seen him fail at PSG, he failed at Bayern, we never should have got him in the first place. Ten Hag was right when he said we needed more players. Like, I don't see a future with Hansi Flick is a bit of an unknown. He's got a decent CV, so maybe him, but I can't see a manager out there right now where in 2026 we're not sat here saying all the same stuff we're saying now. Maybe we need to wait a season just for a better manager to become available. Maybe that's an option. Like, I don't even know. It's just gutting, and I hope that the powers that be at United have got a plan, whatever it is, whether it's with Ten Hag or without Ten Hag. I hope there is a plan that we're getting together. I mean, Berardi doesn't start till July. Ashworth only is still a Newcastle employee. Wilcox has only just started 2 weeks ago, and we haven't even got ahead of recruitment yet. So it's not as though a plan can have been fully formulated just yet. But when it is, we need to go for it, and it's going to take a few years. But hopefully, we can move in the right direction with or without Erik Ten Hag. I just feel like the options at the minute, we're just going to be sat here in 2 years' time saying he's got to go.
Yeah, no, I hear you, bro. I do. Make sure you are hitting that like button. You might not like the result. You can like the video. Subscribe to the channel as well and give us a share if you've not done. Joe, where can people find you?
It's Joe Smith 93 on Instagram and Twitter.
You know where to find me as well. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Marty. This has been a review of another disappointing afternoon again for Manchester United. Again, is time up for Erik Ten Hag? Might be. See you in the next one.